All right, we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. I hope everybody is doing good today. We got a lot to talk about, so just waiting for everybody to file in, making sure everybody is doing good. We got Canada, we got Oklahoma, we got Illinois, Berlin, Vancouver, Canada. We got people from all over the place in here. That's like one of my favorite things is seeing everybody from all over the world. Somebody from Russia, Florida, Chicago, Spain, South Africa, Croatia, Kazan. Let's fucking go. The Telegraph said the Russians withdrew from Vovchansk. Really? That's neat. That's neat. I haven't seen any proof of that. South Carolina, Greece, Serbia, Italy, upstate New York City. Holy shit, boys. Everybody lives everywhere, apparently, and that's crazy. All right. We got enough people in here. We'll go right into the map because we got a lot to talk about today. We have a lot of updates. I spent probably about an hour yesterday updating my map. So yeah, let's go over here and let's make me tiny because I'm not of any importance. All right. So to start it all off, Robotny, the classic. We have a small Russian advance just northeast of Robotny into a defensive fortification in this tree plantation right here. Probably the last area the Ukrainians have to hold in this bottom salient. Once that happens, they will be forced to basically back to where they were in Novodenilivka and Malatakmak. This is just, what the heck happened over here? Hello? Sorry, guys. I don't know why my map got moved. I mean, I probably moved it, but good enough for government work for now. All right, sorry about that. On to the next update. Remember, guys, I told you to watch this southern Donetsk, Prokrovsk area. We got some more movement from the Russians here, some significant movement. The Ukrainian lines in this region look very, very weak. Again, I had talked about how units have been getting pulled from the New York Toretsk salient, the southern Donetsk salient for a while now. With the Kharkov offensive by the Russians, even more forces were rotated out of these areas. And basically, what I think is going on is that in some of these, we're having trouble streaming to Twitter. Oh no! What happened to my Twitter stream? Hold on, everybody. What's going on with my Twitter stream? Oh, is it still working? I don't know. If the Twitter stream goes down, everybody, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. If it's still working, that's awesome. I'll see in a little bit if it's still working. Is anybody on Twitter? Can anybody in the chat talk? We'll get back to the map here, but the Russians have advanced again through open fields. Nothing overly significant. Not a major advance, not into a city or anything, but just closing this pocket and being able to put pressure along the entire 0532 highway from Vuhledar to Konstantinivka is going to really put the pinch on Ukrainian forces in Vuhledar. This is the goal. I've been telling you guys, wait. Once Konstantinivka gets pressured, once this road gets pressured, the assaults on Vuhledar will start. And then the Russian operation in southern Donetsk will begin wrapping basically this entire southern Donetsk area up into Kharkove here, which is another supply area and which will be probably one of the next large battles in this conflict. With the industrial areas, it will be defensible. Again, it has a citadel-like area in the center. So this is looking like it's going to be the next big battle in the southern Donetsk area, like after Krasnohorivka falls. All right. But these three advances, again, they don't look like much just because they're fields, but they're quite a large area, and the Russians have gained more territory in like this month than they have in every previous month that I've experienced in mapping and covering the war. So the Russians are moving very, very quick. Outside of obviously 2022 when they first entered into the region. All right. Moving up here to Krasnohorivka, the Russians have again advanced on this western side of the city, just through some residential buildings, but putting a lot more pressure on this salient. Krasnohorivka is going to fall one of these days. There's only so long the Ukrainians are going to be able to keep supply open in this area with these advances over here. Once the Russians come up and interdict these roads, the Ukrainians in this area will have to withdraw, and then we'll see the bulk of the city be captured by the Russians. The Ukrainians will still likely remain in this northern section and this most eastern or most western section, and they will slowly be fought all the way back over here to Zarain and Alexosandropol. Names suck. I'm sorry, guys. Names suck around Ukraine. All right. How's everybody doing? We good? Okay. It looks like Twitter's back up. Looks like we're doing okay. X is okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you. All right, guys. I forgot to do this when we signed in, but when we went live. But if you want to support my work, the easiest way you can do that is just by following me on my socials and liking and subscribing this video, guys. Please go and like this video. That helps me so much in the algorithm. Just be seen more. And when I get seen more, get more eyes on me, get more followers, that helps me so much, more than like super thanks or super chats or anything like that. So that's the biggest way you guys can help me. And if you guys are looking for more content, I just finished filming the Patreon demonetized number 7 episode. That one will be going up live, or will be going up today right after this. I'm uploading it right now on a separate browser. That will be going up today, and episode number 4 of Demonetized will become free to all of the free members on my Patreon. So be on the lookout for that, guys. It's like a 30-minute video. So if you guys are looking for like 30 minutes of me talking about combat footage, that's the place to go and check that out. And you can watch, remember, episodes 1, 2, and 3 are out for free for everybody who just joins as a Patreon member. All right. My dog is barking at what I believe is a mailman. Tell him. What's up? Who is that? Who is that? All right, knock it off. All right, the Russians have again advanced outside of Netalove. Knock it off, cut it out. Sorry, I got you all riled up. Just a small advance through these tree lines. Nothing major, but notable. And again, this is putting a lot more pressure on this peninsula right here. The Russians will eventually cut it off, and then this whole entire area will fall to the Russians very, very quickly. The Russians previously advanced up into this housing area. Again, there's not much over here to even hold for the Ukrainians. This entire defense line, and it's just becoming this salient that the Ukrainians are trying to force troops into. Especially with these reservoirs right here, making holding this area incredibly difficult. The number of Ukrainian forces in this area is probably no more than 1 or 2 platoons, just because there's no space for them to hide. Potentially in these houses, but I think most of these houses are completely gone. So again, this area is slow to fall. Not a ton of Russian pressure in this direction, but falling all the same. All right, up to the north, the Russians... just a small map update through this field and captured this tree line outside of this defensive fortification. Remember, this defensive fortification is the big win for the Russians in this region. Sokil will probably fall quickly now with the high ground up here captured. And the Ukrainian sources have admitted that Novo Alexandrivka has been completely captured by the Russian forces. So, okay. All right, over to New York and Donetsk. This is where we have seen probably the most movement, the most significant movement, the most noteworthy movement to date. Again, remember, previously we saw the Russians advance up through this area and capture this small water treatment facility right here. And then a day later, advanced up and captured all of Shumi, which is not really a town. It's sort of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 piles of rubble. But you can see that this area was scarred with Ukrainian trench fortifications, bunkers, stuff like that. These are 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 2022 fortifications that have not moved at all since 2014. This line has not moved. So this is very important in that aspect. The Russians have advanced on this side of the canal. This is the same canal that runs through Chesav Yar and down through Ivanivsky, around Kleshchevka and Andriivka down here. It's the same canal. It is likely that the Russians have captured all of this. It makes no sense for the Ukrainians to maintain positions on this side of the canal. Again, though, you can see the trench fortifications even in the fields over here. So the Ukrainians are holding it. The deep state puts it in the gray zone. I imagine most of this section of the canal will be captured by the Russians in the coming days. This advance is slightly more significant. If you remember, the Russians actually captured the Terekon right here, the waste heap, which is a significant elevated position over Donetsk. Well, not really Donetsk. I'm going to call this whole urban conglomerate Donetsk. I don't want to call it Donetsk in New York or Zelezny, Pridevny. I'm not going to call it all these names. It's just Donetsk. The Russians have advanced up likely into this suburban area right here. And it's just going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to hold. This area is, I'll take us over to the topographical map because it's the easiest way to explain what the Russians are doing. Always, always, always look at topography, guys. Okay. Let me take us over there. This is funny. Dude crab, it should have been Sumi, not Solitude Shumi. That's funny, dude. Yeah, I mean, we could still see a Sumi operation. Don't count that out. Let me go over here and let me take you over to the topographical map. All right. So here you can see Shumi is right here. This is the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 houses that the Russians captured. This is the high ground. This is the important aspect of this. Again, the Russians have just basically set themselves up on the high ground in the middle of this Ukrainian urban conglomeration right here. You can see the waste heaps, the Terekons. These are the red dark circles. This is the one that the Russians captured. I already read the Russians have the high ground in Horivka over here, but now they control all of the high ground right up to the gates of Donetsk, which gives them a great tactical advantage in this area over the Ukrainians. And you can see that the same thing is happening over here in Kleshchevka or Andriivka, Kordumovka, this area. And you can see how this high ground right here is vital for the operation into New York and Donetsk. And just on a more tactical level, here is the high ground that was captured. You can see right here. This is the Terekon that is going to be probably battling it out with this Terekon. And then here is the other high ground where all the fortifications are placed. And now the Russians can use those to launch attacks into Donetsk. Get ready for this area to ignite. Ukraine's ability to rotate troops in now is very, very low, and I would not be expecting the Ukrainians to hold this urban area as well as they have held Avdiivka and Bakhmut and previous fortress cities. So the situation here is deteriorating quickly. As soon as this area falls, the entire defense of this city, it transitions from the fortification defense into an urban defense, and then the war changes significantly. And I just expect a lot of movement in this region. Remember what I talked about with my presentation from March or April? I believe April. The Russians are going to continue advancing out towards these supply lines. and they're going to have to maintain fixing attacks in directly, on the front. So I didn't actually expect them to make this much movement. This is a big surprise for me. I did not expect them to move through the most heavily fortified areas. There was a rotation issue for the Ukrainians. Again, this speaks to the manpower issue. The rotation issue came from the 46th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, which was either brought from Bakhmut or Vovchansk after being crippled. And then they failed the rotation. The Russians capitalized. And then this is the capitalization that you're seeing from the Russians from a simple missed rotation. This is going to become more and more common as the Ukrainians become weaker and weaker. And eventually the Russians will be doing this almost every day across the map, as we're seeing. All right. So just watch Donetsk. Donetsk is a major goal. If Donetsk falls, this entire situation. If we see something like this eventually here, which is very realistic considering the map and considering how the Russians like to bait the Ukrainians into these sort of fights. If we see something like this, let's go orange. All right. If we see something like this, you can see how this is going to put this defense line in a very, very difficult position. Already, the roads back behind Konstantinivka are going to be threatened. Konstantinivka is going to be in a very, very delicate position. And honestly, it would probably end up looking something more like this. Chasiv Yar getting captured like this. There you go. Something a little bit more like that. And then you can see how that's going to put this entire defense line and this urban conglomerate into a very, very difficult situation. You're going to be keeping it supplied basically through one path. It's going to be multiple roads, but one path. It's going to make disrupting logistics much easier. And honestly, by the time Chasiv Yar falls, by the time New York and Donetsk falls, the Ukrainian army should be in such a bad way that it's not going to be a huge fight anyway for the Russians through the final remaining cities. Just because the Ukrainians don't have in my personal opinion, don't have the endurance to survive a massive urban battle in Donetsk, a massive urban battle in Chasiv Yar, and then still be able to continue that through Konstantinivka, Druskivka, while maintaining the entire rest of the front line, right? It doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to save these areas and continue fighting, but it means that progress in southern Donetsk is going to speed up immensely, right? It's going to mean Zaporozhye progress is going to speed up. Potentially a Kherson crossing can happen. If the lines are weak somewhere, the Russians are going to capitalize on that. All right. Hello, everybody who's just making it in right now. I see people saying hello, hello, hello. Oh, we got a question here. Did you see Rodney Adkins from Funker 530 saying on X that you should just move to Russia? I mean, yeah, I don't really know how that works. I don't really understand that sort of logic. Hey, if you don't like it here, just move. No, that's not what being a citizen is. That's not what being an American is. If you appreciate America and you like some of the traditional values that America, whether you believe it or not, because I know some of my audience is not very pro-American. I live here. I know the good and the bad. I see a lot of it. I like the Second Amendment. I like our First Amendment. Not that it's always upheld, but I like those two amendments particularly. I like that in my life. I like having those options. And I don't want to see that destroyed by a government that doesn't know what it's doing and by dumb voters who don't have the information or the willingness to actually learn the information and make conscious decisions. That's my problem, right? I don't want. I mean, Russia's a beautiful place. I could go live in Russia and probably be happy. But should I run away from the place that has provided so much for me? Or should I point out the issues and try to build it up and make it better as a U.S. citizen? See, this is again projection. This is something that I see these individuals do a lot, where they will say, well, you should just fucking move. Just get out of here. We don't want you here. If you don't want to be here, if you don't like what we're doing, leave. Well, no, that's not what being an American is. That's not what voting is, right? If you want something to change, you have to be the change. You can't just leave and hope that it's going to be different somewhere else. You can, I guess. If I move to Russia, I leave my entire family. I leave everything I've ever known. I'm moving to a place where I barely know the language, barely understand it, can't speak it, right? I can barely read the language. What am I going to do over there? Am I going to do this over there? How does that appear to all of my audience if I go over there and I start reporting from inside of Russia? I mean, it would be cool. There would be some aspects of it that would be really interesting. I could give a new perspective. Westerner living in Russia, it has its appeals, but that's it's like it doesn't make any sense. Why would an American who loves being in America and wants to make America better leave America to go to a place that he doesn't know or understand fully? Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? No, Russia is good in the countryside too. This is a funny thing that I also hear. Russia is good, but only in the cities. The countryside is meh. Well, I mean, yeah, if you're going to the poor areas, has anybody ever driven through Nevada before? Has anybody ever driven through the eastern part of California before? Has anybody drove through Kansas, Alabama? I mean, every place is like this. The cities are usually have the most money, so they're the nicest. They're usually dingy though and have the highest crime. You get out of the cities and you get to places where people don't make as much money and they're in trailers and double wides and everything. And the plumbing, people are like, oh, there's no plumbing. If you're 100 miles away from the nearest city and the nearest water treatment plant, how are you supposed to get plumbing out to your house? It doesn't even make sense. Russia's so big and expansive. I don't know. These are just the it's like the 1990s idea of Russia versus the 2024 what Russia really is. All right, I'm going to finish up with my map updates and then we will move on here. So in the Chasiv Yar area, the Russians have advanced through this tree area and slightly through the micro canal district. All of this is now in the gray zone, everything on this side of the canal. The Russians have almost achieved their goal of pushing out to the canal from Chasiv Yar down to Kodumivka. This is still holding for the Ukrainians. Very impressive. Although I don't know how much the Russians are attacking in this area. We don't see a lot of combat footage from this area. Usually means that it's kind of quiet. And the Russians seem to be enjoying the current tactical situation here. I don't know if they would like all the way up to the canal. I don't know what the Russians' goals are here. Obviously, it's to advance, but it doesn't seem like they're putting a lot of pressure here, whereas they are putting a lot of pressure down here and over here. All right. Moving up to the Seversk salient, where we have a pretty significant Russian advance into Rozdalivka. A flag was planted somewhere in this area, I do believe, by the Russians. This is just a map update. I had my map wrong in this area. The Russians have advanced up into this tree line. I did not have this. So these are kind of two separate updates for me. This one's a little bit older. This one down here is the new update. This is significant, again, because back behind Rozdalivka, there is just nothing. There's just nothing in these fields, and the Russians will capitalize on that nothingness. The Ukrainians will defend it, but you can see how this once very strong salient is starting to get pushed in multiple different directions now. And the final update is in Novovadyana. The Russians made a small advance through this tree line. Not a big deal, just a small little map update. All right, and that is it for today's updates. Today's map updates, at least. All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Rozdalovka. No, it doesn't, guys. I'm gonna use the names that are on the map. You use the names that are on the map so that new people, when they're looking at it, they're not confused by well, I typed in Rozdelivka, but I couldn't Rozdelovka, but I couldn't find it. Yeah, because it's an eye on the map. If I'm presenting to an English audience, I would love to use all of the Russian names. It doesn't really matter to me at all. A name of a place is the least important thing ever. If I say Kiev and you say Kiev and it sounds the exact same, but it's spelled different, what difference does it make? It makes no difference. If I say Springfield and Springfield, but Springfield is spelled one way and then the other Springfield is spelled the other way, what difference does it make? It doesn't. I've never understood this argument. Call a city whatever you want to call it, as long as everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. When I say the Big Apple, what am I talking about? Am I talking about a literal Big Apple? No. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's annoying. Scott is terrible with names, so don't even bother him with that. I'm not terrible with names. There's just ridiculous fucking names like this. Alexijevo Druskivka. I mean, come on, dude. What is this? That's so unnecessary. Are there any names like that in the United States? Like Illinois, maybe, is one of those. I don't know. That's so stupid. That's just so stupid. All right. Let's get into some articles that I wanted to talk about. And then we'll talk about the major events that have been happening over this last weekend. Actually, we can talk about one of them right now. So we'll talk about the Sevastopol stuff. Russia blames U.S. for Crimea death and vows response. So I'm just going to read this from the BBC's perspective. Hold on. Russia has blamed the U.S. and vowed consequences for a Ukrainian missile strike on Sevastopol and occupied Crimea on Sunday, which officials say killed 4 people, including 2 children. I thought it was 5. I could be wrong. Around 150 more were injured in the attack as missile debris fell on a beach nearby. Russia's defense ministry said that the missiles used by the Ukrainians were U.S. supplied ATACMS missiles. Said that the missiles supplied were U.S. ATACMS missiles. That seems redundant. You already said missiles. And claimed they were programmed by U.S. specialists. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called the strike barbaric and accused the U.S. of killing Russian children. He pointed towards comments by President Vladimir Putin, who recently vowed to target countries supplying weapons to Ukraine. So the most significant aspect of this for me, if you guys don't know, there was an ATACMS strike. 4 ATACMS missiles were fired by the Ukrainians, 4 or 5, depending on reports. The Russians claimed that all of the ATACMS were downed by air defense, and that one of these ATACMS opened up and dropped its cluster munitions basically when it was intercepted over a beach in Crimea, and caused a lot of injuries. There are videos that you guys can go see. I show them in my demonetized episode 7 that is going up right after this. I talk about it. I go into more detail in that video because I can actually show the stuff that happened. But it's the issue that I'm having with the whole thing is that the Ukrainians could have conducted this strike at night. This was a planned strike. U.S. ISR assets were in the air at the time. They launched missiles with cluster munitions over crowded beaches during early midday, which is just a recipe to kill people. Usually when you're conducting strikes like this, unless it's extremely time sensitive, which it could have been, but I think they were targeting fixed air defense locations, so not really time sensitive. I think that there is an onus of responsibility on the side firing the weapon not to be firing weapons at non-time sensitive targets when the risk to civilians is extremely high. This goes for the Russians as well. A time sensitive target would be, say, if there was Russians having a party in a cafe and the cafe had civilians in it. That is a time sensitive target. While it is technically you are causing civilian casualties. The Russians are committing a war crime by having a party in the cafe. You can strike that cafe as long as there's not like hundreds of civilian casualties for like 2 Russians. It has to be, there is a certain gray area where it comes to collateral damage, what's acceptable and what's not, and that changes. It varies depending on the situation, but launching these missiles over this beach during this time of day is just uh, deliberate negligence in my personal opinion. But again, it is a war, and I'm not going to cry over things that happen in war. Honestly, you can't let it affect your analysis, and you can't. I see a lot of people like, nuke them. It's just no, guys. The Russians are trying to win the war. They're going to use this for propaganda. They're going to use it to put pressure on the West to not send weapons. They're going to make their threats, and then it's going to be gone in a week. And it's super unfortunate. It's super sad for the kids that died. But this is the world we live in, and this is how it's going to work. And then the next event, everybody's going to jump on that train, right? This is what happens. Yeah, Russia does do the same thing. Russia does do exactly the same thing, and this is what I talk about all the time. Remember that pizza parlor, that pizza cafe? They got absolutely rocked by 2 Iskanders because there was literally a Ukrainian award ceremony or military meeting, and we got all those pictures of all the military in the pizzeria. Remember that? The very specific reason I used an example of Russians having a party in a civilian cafe was based off of that pizza thing, right? And they killed civilians. But guess what? That is a time sensitive target. You have to strike it while those guys are in that building, and it is a war crime for the Ukrainians to position soldiers next to civilians. It is a war crime. So, it's like this. It's a war, guys. It's a war. You got to remember that this is a war, and innocent people die in wars. And the reason why we don't fight wars is because shit like this happens. It's always the innocent people that get caught in the middle of it. Will BRICS currency be announced in October? I have no fucking clue, dude. I have no idea. If they say it's going to be in October, expect it to be a year delayed. That's usually how these things go. I don't know. I don't think that there's going to be any massive changes. I think you're just going to keep seeing small shifts, and the BRICS is just going to keep getting slowly stronger and stronger over time. Yeah, but that's my opinion on this. It looks like they were targeting a military facility. The Russians intercepted it. The ATACMS cluster munitions fell on Ukrainian civilians, technically. This is another aspect that I wanted to talk about, and I'll get into this in just a second. But fell on Russian, Ukrainian beachgoers, killed civilians, and this is exactly what what Russia was warning the U.S. about. It's not so much that these weapons are going to just be used against civilians. It's the fact that you're giving Ukraine capabilities to do more damage inside of Russia. Events like this are going to become more and more common, and that puts Russia in a position where it needs to protect its citizens, right? That's the line being crossed. That's why the warnings are coming out, and that's why Ukraine is going to have less territory now. The way you look at this is not, oh, well, how is Putin going to respond? Where is the response? Blah, 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 blah. He's told you what the response is. Stop expecting some Western reaction from a Russian president. Stop. The response is going to be Ukraine is going to lose more territory because they possess a weapon system that can target Russian territory. That's what he said. So congratulations, you have lost more territory. That's the reaction. It's not a nuke. He's not going to level cities. He's not going to blow bridges. Ukraine is just going to be smaller and less viable. That's it. So if Russia used cluster bombs in Miami Beach, 3 miles from me, what would the U.S. do? I mean, go to war. What are you talking about? That's exactly what the U.S. would do. But the issue is that, well, first off, who's dropping the cluster munitions? Because Russia would never actually drop those cluster munitions on Miami Beach because there's implications for that, right? Just like the U.S. would never drop ATACMS cluster munitions on a Russian beach. No, they're having Ukraine do that, and then they say, it's Ukraine, it's their missiles, it's not us, even though we're giving them the targeting data and all that. This is gray area, right? This is how proxy wars are conducted. This is plausible deniability. And if, say, Cuba launched a missile and it killed some people in Miami Beach, and those missiles were supplied by Russia, I would expect the same response that the U.S. That Russia is giving Ukraine. Go in, do what they need to do in Cuba, protect their national interests and security on their border. And I would be pro-American in that instance, because I would say, why the fuck is Russia giving Cuba missiles to strike the US? All they're doing is creating unnecessary issues. That I'm not like pro-Russian in any sense, because I like love Russia and I think they're the best. No, I'm just looking at the situation and saying, if I was Putin and I saw NATO expanding towards me and I saw this extreme Russophobia in Europe, which I didn't actually even know existed until the war started to this degree, and you just see that the walls are closing in and the wolves are at your door, what are you going to do? The same thing that anybody would do, the same thing that the US would do, is just bomb them to hell, pretty much. It's like, what else can you do? Calibrated. Why do you think Russia never fully declared war, state of full mobilization, considering they're basically fighting against NATO? Because this is this is another part of it, right? It is a full war. They are on a war footing economically now. But the idea for this whole SMO was that the Russian public never even knows that there's a war going on. And they've done a very, very, very good job of that. I know we're inundated with information all the time. You see fires in Russia all the time, drone strikes, whatever, this, that, and the other. But Russia is a really big place, and humans only have two eyes, right? And they can only see about a couple kilometers, and they can only hear about a couple kilometers. So for the majority of people, there's not a war going on. Almost nothing has changed. They buy the same goods. They have the same. They're actually things have actually gotten better for people in Russia, because their purchasing power has gone up. The Russian economy is improving in certain aspects. So really, things have gotten better for a lot of Russians since the start of the war. Unless the people who have lost sons, perhaps, and that is an aspect of war that you can't avoid. But the goal for the Russian government was to make this SMO as least impactful on the Russian people as possible. Declaring war and taking that extra step is something you do when you want to propagate the idea that you're going to war, right? This is not supposed to be a war. This is supposed to be a brotherly intervention to save the Ukrainian people. And that's the line that they're going to toe the entire time. Why does Putin's peace proposal still apply after Crimea? Oh, because it's not a peace proposal. It's literally capitulation. I don't know if you've read any of it, guys, but the things that he is asking for are complete non-starters for both the United States, Europe, and Ukraine. His peace proposal is minimal Russian victory goals. That's what that is. Complete sanctions relief is never going to happen, ever, until the US is probably collapsed or Russia is collapsed and the regimes change. Sanction relief is not going to happen. What else? What were the other things? The Ukrainians withdrawal out of all four oblasts, which is insanity for the current Ukrainian regime to accept. It would be good for Ukraine, but bad for the current Ukrainian regime to accept. So that's a non-starter. And NATO neutrality and all of that. I mean, it's all just non-starters the whole way around. So it's not a peace proposal. That is capitulation. That's the West saying, we lost. Ukraine, you need to retreat. We need to stop this war. We've lost. The sanctions are relieved. This, that, and the other. That's what that is. So that's why it applies, because it's a really, really still a good deal for Russia. If Ukraine was to take that right now, that would be an insane deal for Russia to take. Yeah, they don't get Kharkov, Odessa, this, that, and the other. The war ends. The Russian economy can return to a non-military footing while still being active and producing all of the equipment that they need for replacements and stuff like that. And then, all of that economic relief, the Russian economy is just going to explode, right? if they can start trading with Europe again, and they've already started trading with China to the extent that they have, and Europe, it's going to be the greatest thing for Russia ever. So that's not a that's not a peace proposal. That is, hey, the West, you need to surrender. That's what that is. So this is actually interesting. You should make a stream how the situation has developed on the map if your map is capable of doing so, for example, this year or so. So I do have a January map and a my current map. So I've saved different iterations of my map, and I'm going to overlay them and show you guys how much has changed. I can change the colors on them, so I'm going to overlay, and I'm going to do a whole video about this. It's a good idea, and great minds think alike. So thank you, Woname. Question. What would happen if someone like Trump refused to serve the establishment? Would they get the JFK treatment? Yeah. I mean, we already saw what happened to him. They tried to discredit him. They tried to link him to Russia falsely. The whole dossier was faked. They've tried to put him in prison multiple times. We're in a banana republic, dude. That's what happens when you go against the establishment, and it's why I say nothing changes if Trump gets into office, because he's just going to be backlogged. He's just going to be locked down and unable to make any political moves. They don't have to. They don't have to shoot him in the head. They're just going to have to deal with him for 4 years. Scott, do you think the U.S. will have a hard downfall, like no more first world economy, military, even some states excluding from the Union? Thank you if you answer it. Well, if I didn't answer it, would it still not be thank you? That seems kind of rude. No, I don't think the U.S. is going to have a hard downfall. I mean, hard is relative, right? I don't think it's going to be like the collapse of the Soviet Union and what 1990s Russia was. I don't think it's going to look like that. I think it's going to be a steep decline in the luxury of life that we enjoy. The quality of life is going to drop. And just as the economic situation gets worse, the I don't know what you would call it. It's grotesque. It's almost we have so much. We have excess here. The excess that we have is going to go away, and people are going to learn what reality for most of the world is in terms of like budgeting and stuff like that. It's starting to get bad in the U.S. We're starting to get to that point, but if there is a major economic situation, the U.S. is not really in danger. We're very isolated. We're economically we're economically superior in the world right now, at least. We have a very strong military. We have a large population. We have good living conditions. So immigration is still very viable for us. We're self-sufficient with our food and with most of our minerals and stuff. So the U.S. isn't going anywhere. It's still going to be strong. Will it be the hegemony? I think that's what's going to change. It's not going to be some collapse like you're expecting. But for the average American, they might say, oh, this is the downfall of America. For somebody in Brazil, they're going to say, well, everybody in America is still living better than I am here. So it's not really that much of a downfall. Kalibrated, can you have a daily counter on top of your screen for the size of land that Russia is currently capturing and the daily gains? Is it technically possible? It is technically possible. The only issue is on my map. I don't know. Setting up an overlay is possible. I can try to do that. I can try to do it. It's just a lot of extra work is the only thing. But yeah, I can try to do it. Economically superior, but the price has gone up. Yeah, I know. No, it's not that living conditions and our purchasing power isn't being reduced, but the US is still the hegemony. And until they're no longer the hegemony, and they no longer control a majority of, the economic flow of the world, it's getting to the point, right? We're living through the end of it. We're watching the finale of the U.S. empire and its great strength era. I think that we're going to become what post World War II Britain was, just a sort of a shell of itself and on the way out in terms of its empire status. Anything new with Hezbollah and Israel? Nope, not really. Not a lot is going on. The Israelis use white phosphorus. They've been striking inside of Lebanon, but nothing particularly new. All right, I'm gonna go over and read this last article. Oh wait, was this the wrong one? Oops. Oops. So this is the Pentagon, basically saying that Ukraine is making all of its own targeting decisions, which I think that this is a very, very clever way of working their way around what is happening. Ukraine is making its own targeting decisions. We're just providing all of the targeting data and the target list. They get to pick what they want to hit, is what I basically, that's what this sounds like to me. But I will continue reading. Washington, June 24th. The Pentagon said on Monday that Ukraine makes its own targeting decision after the Kremlin directly blamed the United States for an attack on Crimea that it said was carried out with the U.S. supplied ATACMS missile and that it killed at least 4 people and injured 151. The war in Ukraine has triggered the biggest confrontation between, dumb filler for an article. But just saying Ukraine makes its own targeting decisions when you're flying Reapers and Global Hawks and AWACS reconnaissance aircraft off the coast of Crimea every single time there's a strike is a ridiculous lie that you tell to convince stupid people that you're not doing something illegal and wrong. They are doing something stupid and illegal and wrong, but this is how they're going to word it. They decide what they want to strike. We just provide all of the information for those strikes, which means that they're picking the targets. It's just a workaround. It's dumb. All right. If you guys have some questions, go ahead and get some questions in. I'll answer some questions and then we'll wrap it up here. Getting a lot of updates on my phone. There's a missile strike going on right now. MiG up in the air. No, let's see. Where is it? Dnepropetrovsk, Kharkov. What's getting hit right now? Oh, and another MiG is up. Okay. Not a lot going on. All right, let's see. Questions. But Ukraine is crying about restrictions on using ATACMS. Yeah, because they can't target, the U.S. has not allowed them to target inside of Russia, which again, if Ukraine chooses all of its own targeting data, the U.S. can still put restrictions on what it can and can't target. So it's not really selecting its own targets, is it? It's just not. It's just this whole thing just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but they're mad about the U.S. not letting them basically start World War III by striking high-value, sensitive targets inside of Russia. What's my daily workout? I don't have a daily workout. I just do, on Sunday, I'll start on Sunday. Legs, chest, back, shoulders, legs, arms, chest. No. Sometimes I take Saturdays off. Sometimes I take Thursdays off. Just depends. And then legs again on Sunday. That's my workout. Wouldn't a sanctioned U.S. be the hardest hit in the U.S. and nowhere to sell your gas, oil, weapons, and tech? Wouldn't a sanctioned U.S. be the... I'm kind of not understanding this question fully. Maybe Russia declares part of the Black Sea some kind of danger, war, gray zone. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would start harassing the shit out of at least the drones, the unmanned aerial systems. The AWACS is a little bit more risky, but you can still just go up and pester them and just give them shit all the time in international airspace. And that's what Russia should start doing, in my personal opinion. When do you think China-Taiwan starts? As soon as the U.S. makes it start. If the U.S. plans on having Taiwan become an issue for China, that's when it'll start. I really don't know. I don't know their timeline. It could be this year before elections. Who knows? Usually the proper time for the Chinese to invade or set up some sort of invasion scenario is August time period. So coming up quick, but we'll see. I doubt it. I think the Chinese are playing the long game, just like the Russians are kind of playing the slow long game. Do you think Russia bolsters troops before winter and does a big push, or is it going to be slow crawl to the end? Well, it's already speeding up. It's already speeding up significantly. This whole slow crawl talk, guys, this isn't 2022 anymore. The Russians are advancing every single time I get on here. I'm covering probably 50 square kilometers of territory that the Russians are capturing. It has sped up so much. It's just happening across the entire front and not in one direction. So you don't really get to see the bulk of the advance. And the map updates are slow. Oh, it's only a couple blocks. Oh, it's a field here, a field there, but it's fields every single day. And every day the Russians are moving. So the slow crawl thing, it's already speeding up. It's not going to be a slow crawl forever. No. Eventually, there won't be a Ukrainian army standing in front of parts of the Russian army, and when that happens, you'll see the quicker advances, and then the collapse will follow that. But until then, there's no point in sacrificing thousands of Russian troops in unnecessary offensives when the Ukrainian army is strong and capable of dealing blows that you don't want to, succumb to. What's with the new front symbol? Yeah, I can show you guys that. It's in my bookmarks over here. I saved it because it's in my new demonetized. But yes, I can show you right here. So the Russians have created a new identification mark for their vehicles. I don't know what region this is. It could be very well be Sumy. We haven't seen it anywhere else. This is the only place we've seen it. It's like it's like this face over here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but eyes, no mouth. That's what I think that looks like. But yeah, nothing particularly significant right now. At least we don't know how long until that changes. All right. Let's see. Questions, boys? Sumy front. Next is Odessa and Kiev. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that I'm still thinking that we're a little too close. We're a little too close to that. We're a little far away from that sort of talk. Odessa will wait. Crossing the river is super hard. Yes, that is definitely true. Do you think Russia has an understandable reason for the war at all? Yeah. NATO encroachment, economic suffocation, enemy missile systems being placed on your borders, Ukraine already having a slightly anti-Russian position in the West, and a Nazi issue. It's very clear that Ukraine has a Nazi issue. I'm not saying everybody in Ukraine is a Nazi. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that even a majority are Nazis. I'm not saying that at all. Nazis tend to be vocal minorities. They're very loud and very impactful. And when you have a issue with them, such as your national hero being Stefan Bandera and the Ukrainian army being celebrating carrying out pogroms in Poland and Lvov. These are not people you want to idolize and be your heroes, but the Ukrainians do it. So there is an institutional, systemic issue with this topic in Ukraine. And the biggest issue really is that Ukraine is the only country in the world that openly arms and pays a far-right extremist brigade to be in their military structure. So not a militia, not some... No, the Azov joined the Ukrainian military, and that means that the Ukrainians have a Nazi brigade in their armed forces. That's where the denazification issue comes from. Every country in the world has Nazis. Russia has Nazis. U.S. has them. Europe has them. Every place has them. This is it's a common, very appealing ideology to particularly desperate young men. So they're everywhere. Nobody's saying that they're not everywhere. but Ukraine has a particular issue with them, and that's what the Russians were talking about. So there's that aspect of it. I would say the biggest reason is just geostrategically, Russia can't lose Ukraine. If Russia loses Ukraine, the Russian state becomes extremely weak. And would you expect the U.S. to defend its geostrategic interests around the world? Because I would. So, outside of that, that's all the reason I think they need at all. Honestly, people have started wars for a lot less than what the Russians started this one for. Do you think our sub hunters can find Russian subs? Yes, I do. I think that's their whole job. Do I think they can find all the Russian subs? No. Calibrated. What do you think the Rushich group is? They're literally okay. So this is a perfect example. This is exactly what I was saying. They are right, but they're not openly neo-Nazi in the way that Azov is. Azov is they are open about it. There is not in this group. They are not. It's not to the same level. It's just not. And I'm telling you that the Russian government does not accept it and does not allow it in their. It's all under the board. There are guys in the U.S. military. I've seen them, by the way, that are neo-Nazis. I've seen them in the United States military. I've known them. I don't like them, but I have known these people, and I'm like, my God, it's weird that you join the military with those sort of ideological, that sort of ideology, but. Yes, every place has far right groups. It is when you're dealing with men aged 20 to 35, far right groups are very, very popular with that demographic. So you're definitely going to have these individuals in every single group. But Azov is an entire brigade. That's the difference. That's the difference. There are multiple brigades in the Ukrainian armed forces that are openly Nazi supporters, and they are openly supported by their government. It's different. It is 100% different. Yeah, true. I've known guys during my time in service. It's just the demographic. There is a certain population of men aged 18 to 35 who are likely poorer people. And those are that's the same demographic that joins the military. Poor young men, right? Poor young men that are looking for some national identity, some group to be a part of, this, that, and the other. It's a common thing in all militaries. Yeah, the military actually does attract a lot of fucked up individuals. Yeah, because it's a place. It's a place to go where you could die, first off. So there's always that aspect of it, but it's also a place where you have a full structure, no freedom really. It's very controlling, and it's a means to gain higher education or an income, right? That's what the U.S. military is now. So it does it. It's like cops in the United States. We don't pay our cops enough. We don't train them enough, and everybody fucking hates them. So the people who become cops are short guys with no options and insecurities, and then that's why cops are bad. It's the same thing. Scott, were you in the U.S. military? No, I was not. I was very close to joining when I was younger. I ended up didn't. Thank God I didn't, because a lot of my friends joined. My best friend, he joined. He was a Marine. I was going to join the Marines, but it just wasn't for me. I listened to him talk about it, and I think I actually would have done fairly well with the structure of the military. I think it would have done good for me in becoming a man, but I'm happy with the choices that I went with. I wouldn't have actually seen any combat either. I would have done exactly what my friend did, which was 2 tours on a aircraft carrier or a support ship with in a flotilla. So that's what he did. He went to Thailand, Okinawa, Guam, Djibouti, but never did anything. So I don't know. I feel like I didn't waste 4 years of my life doing that. Military food would not do me well. That's funny. Let's see. Then there's that whole bit about. Oh wait, sorry. He's having a conversation with somebody else. Djibouti? No, Djibouti. Djibouti. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everybody coming in here, asking questions. Be sure to check out that demonetized episode on my Patreon. It goes up today. And the fourth episode will also be out for free today. So go check that out. If you don't want to sign up and become a full Patreon member, you can still become a free Patreon member and get access to more content. So go check that out, guys. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and go check out my Telegram and my Twitter as well. Links are in the description. Have a fantastic day, and I will probably see you guys tomorrow. Bye.